Okay guys, today we're going to be showing you a run-up on a Piper Seminole PA44-180. So for the first thing here on our engine run-up checklist, we're going to set our parking brake. Now as we know from our briefings, we need to push the toe brakes first, in, then we can go down here and move the parking brake lever out. After our parking brake is set, we want to go through our temperatures and pressures, of course, to confirm that our temperatures and pressures are looking good. We'll start up here on the left side, just our fuel quantity. We have sufficient fuel. Our fuel pressure, we're in the green for both. Our ammeters are both looking good and parallel. Our cylinder head temperature are in the green and looking good. Oil temperature, we're looking pretty good. The left one's a little higher than the right, but different engines, that's okay. And then of course our oil pressure right down at the bottom. So everything is looking good for temperatures and pressures. Next step, we're going to be going to confirm that our mixtures are in the full rich position. Now we had brought them back to the R for the startup and for the taxi, so that we don't foul our spark plugs. We don't have too rich of a running engine. So mixtures are in the full rich position. We want to confirm that our propellers are full fine, full forward. And we want to confirm that our throttles, we're going to bring them up to 1,500 RPM. So nice and gentle movement, small change, and we might have to change one or the other just to get right around 1,500, and we're pretty darn close, so that looks pretty good. From there we're going to go on and we're going to do our feather check. So for our feather check, we just want to confirm that our propellers should feather if we had an engine failure in flight. So we're going to put our finger here on the left propeller lever, and we're going to bring it all the way down to the feathered position. We're going to hold it there for approximately maybe a second, maybe a half of a second, until the RPM starts to drop. You'll also notice this audibly by the sound of the engine. We're looking for at least 300 RPM. We don't want to exceed 500 RPM. We don't want to feather the propeller. So here we go. We're going to go all the way back. You can hear the change, and all the way back to forward. So we got about a 500 RPM drop there on the left one. Let's try the right. You can hear the change in the sound and all the way back to the full forward position. So the feather check worked for both engines. We can continue with our run-up. Throttles are now going to be put up to 2,000 RPM. So again, nice and gentle with the throttles. So we can see here our left and our right RPM are now at 2,000. Looking good. We're going to come on down and we're going to confirm that our brakes are holding. We're just going to take a second. We're going to look up from our checklist, look outside. We do have a lot of power on in the Seminole right now. We just want to make sure that we're not moving. Maybe we could be on some ice. Maybe we didn't set enough pressure on our brakes. However, we're looking pretty good here right now, so we can safely continue. Look back down at our checklist. We're going to exercise our propellers. So the purpose of exercising the propellers are to circulate some nice, fresh, warm oil from the oil sump into our propeller hub. And we're going to do that by basically changing the angle of the propeller multiple times in order to flush the system. So we're just going to start with the left one. We're going to do each propeller 3 times, but we're going to alternate in between. So left one, right one, left one, right one, left one, right one. We're going to put our thumb or a finger down here on the full decrease line to prevent us from feathering the propellers. And again, we'll go down here now, we're going to alternate. So left one, back to the thumb, alternate to the right, 300 RPM drop at least. We have that, good. And you can also hear it. Left one again, and the right one. Good, so our propellers have been exercised now. We should have some nice fresh oil in our propeller hub. We should make sure for an easier governor check. So for a governor check here now, this one can be a little bit tricky, especially on the flight test. You want to make sure that you're not too nervous. You want to be gentle with the propeller levers and make small changes. I like to put one finger on the left, one finger on the right propeller, so that I can move them individually. I'm always going to keep my fingers on the propeller levers and always hold a small amount of back pressure so that the propeller levers don't move forward while we're doing our check. So again, nice and gentle. They do come back a fair amount before they start to engage. Nice and gentle. We're going to be looking for the RPM drop here now, and we're looking for 1,800 RPM for this check. So we can see the left one's looking pretty darn good. I'm not releasing the pressure. However, I do need to increase the right propeller forward just a little bit, and I'm going to wait for the change. The faster you do this, the longer it's going to take. You have to wait for the change in those propeller levers. Wait for the change in the governor to affect the RPM. So just take your time, it's not a race. And we're looking pretty darn close here now to where we want to be, right around 1800 RPM. So I'm now going to take my throttles, I'm going to increase by 2. So, increase our manifold pressure. The RPM should now increase a little bit, but it should go back to 1800 and should be constant. We can see the RPM is back at 1800 and everything is looking good. We can now bring our propellers back to the full fine position and decrease the throttles to give us 2000 RPM again. Excellent, so our governor check is working, and we can continue with the checklist. Carburetor heat. So we just want to confirm that our carburetor heat is working, and that we don't have any carburetor ice in the carburetors before we go flying, of course. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring the left one down. Now remember, there is a lock on these, so when you are moving the carburetor heat, you want to pull it back first, and then make the downward motion. So here we go, back and down. We can see a small decrease here in the left engine. In the RPM, there is no roughness, and we'll do the same one for the right, back and down. We see a little bit of a bigger drop here on the right engine. There's no roughness. We don't have any carburetor ice. They both decreased. We have carburetor heat working on both engines. So again, pull down and then bring them, slide them up, pull down and slide it up, back to 2000 RPM. Everything looks good. Next is our magneto check. Now we should check the left engine first, as we've been doing through the whole run-up. So we're going to check the left engine and the left magneto. So we want to bring down these two little safety caps here. So left engine, left magneto, we're going to turn off. We're looking for an RPM decrease. Maximum RPM decrease for the magneto drop is going to be 175 RPM. Maximum difference between both magnetos is going to be 50. So turning that magneto back on, our left magneto on our left engine, and turning our right magneto off on our left engine, and just confirming again the drop. That's about 50. So we had about 50 for both. The left engine is serviceable for the magnetos. Checking now the right engine. We're going to check the left engine first again, the left magneto first again. Left magneto goes off. We see the decrease in the RPM. We have about maybe 75 RPM on the left, which is good. And we'll check now the right. We have about 75 on the right as well, maybe 50 or 75. So we're within the total tolerance of 175 and the 50 between. Next thing we're going to be checking here now is our ammeter check. The next check we're going to be doing here is our fuel selector check. So for the fuel selector check, we just want to confirm that the off, the on, the off, and the cross-feed function is working properly. So what I'm going to do is we're going to come down here to our fuel selectors, which are between the two seats. And we're going to start off this check by bringing the left fuel selector to the off position. Right on the line. We're then going to come up to our fuel pressure gauge. And we should be seeing a decrease in fuel pressure, as we are. We're now going to come back down to the fuel selector gauge and go for a crossfeed. So now we're taking fuel from the right fuel tank and putting it into the left engine, and we can see our fuel selector has gone back to indicating that our fuel pressure is going back up. That's confirming that we do have fuel pressure or fuel now coming from the right engine. After we have confirmed that the fuel pressure is increasing, we're going to bring the fuel selector all the way back to the on position. We will repeat the check, of course, for the left engine, just so in case you didn't get it there the first time. So the fuel selector is going to go back to the off position. We're going to come back up. We're going to check our fuel pressure in the right engine should decrease. As it's decreasing here now, we're going to come back down to our fuel selector, and we're going to bring the fuel selector back to the cross-feed position, and we should see an increase in our fuel pressure. and our fuel pressure is slowly rising. So now we're getting fuel from the left fuel tank and putting it into the right engine, so our cross-feed function is working as well. And then of course we can go back to the on position. Last thing we want to check here now, one of the last things is going to be the annunciator lights. So these are just our warning lights in case something is not working properly in the aircraft. Normally they should be off as they are now. That means that there's no problems currently with the aircraft. And if we push the test button, they should all light up, just to confirm that all the lights are working. So that checks out. Gyro suction gauge. Gyro suction is located up here on the right side of the instrument panel. And we should have between 4.8 and 5.2 inches. Right now we're looking just about 5.1, and so that checks out as well. Throttles, we're going to bring back now to 1,000 RPM to conclude the engine run-up check. So we're just going to bring them back nice and slowly back to 1,000 RPM. Alright guys, that's going to conclude the engine run-up in the Piper Seminole PA44 180. Hope you enjoyed it.